Good evening. It is right at 7 o'clock. So I believe we're going to go ahead and get started for the evening. I'd like to introduce myself. I am Kelsey Nordyke. I am the Kansas 4-H Ag Science Specialist and also the Southeast Regional Specialist. And so I support your agents in those counties in the Southeast and part of the Northeast region, as well as support all of the ag-related 4-H projects across the state. Happy to have you joining us again this year. And I want to introduce my co-host this evening, Joel DeRushi with the Department of Animal Sciences and Industry at K-State, and also Lexi Hayes, who's an extension assistant. I'm struggling with words tonight. Extension assistant within K-State Animal Science Department as well. And you probably recognize Joel and Lexi if you have had any interaction with K-State's Department of Animal Sciences, and if you have kiddos that are involved in showing livestock at the state level, you have certainly interacted with Lexi as well. So I'm grateful to have both of them this evening. We're going to take a few minutes just to provide a little bit of introductions before we get started. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joel.
Thanks, Kelsey, and thanks everybody for joining tonight. I know we have a really nice blend of board members, volunteers, our county extension agents with different responsibilities with youth livestock development. And in this, I really want to thank you for joining tonight. So a little history of this. So if this is your first time, welcome. If you're a veteran, welcome back. We've actually been hosting these since 2008. So this is the 9th time that we have hosted this Livestock County Fair Management Clinic. We do these every other year in about this time of year. We actually used to, again, pre-COVID, used to do these in person. We would have a session somewhere in eastern Kansas, one in western. And honestly, this was probably well, I know this is a positive change. While we always want to be or I like to be in person, we have many of you are clearly in careers, working, all the things that's made it hard to attend some of those in the past. So as we went to this route, this would be our 3rd time just doing on Zoom. And it's been very successful from our standpoint of still having a lot of interaction, trying to have multiple breakout sessions, having multiple board members, volunteers, extension agents give experiences from their own counties or how they do things. One of the things I really want, I guess a goal of this has always been, and why this started, I went back and I found notes from 2007. All right, so we're going back in the memory bank a little bit. This came out of discussion with a group of county extension agents, really just wanting some comparison information to other counties that they could use to help support their board members and volunteers at their fairs. So really out of that, we developed the first one in 2008. And it's highly interactive. So you will not hear us lecturing. This is not about us. This is all about you to give examples of how you do things. And over time, I'll be honest, I get a kick out of it. If I ever get a kick out of a meeting, it's generally this one because we'd have come on and we have them premium sales or whatever the topics are. A lot of these we almost have every 2 years because they're requested, and we have new agents, we have new board members. And one of the things that we learn really quickly, and everybody kind of knows this, but I don't think fully understood the differences that counties have between a lot of the way that they approach many things at the county fair. And everybody's right. There's no wrongs, right? It's just based, a lot of times it's based on tradition of how it started, and it's been that way and it's worked well for that county. Oftentimes, and it's what's really good is we like to get feedback of maybe some of the tweaks that have happened that generally maybe have been positive to help improve different aspects of the fair. And it's just always fun to hear some of the stories like, what do you mean your animals don't have to go to slaughter if they go through the premium sale? What do you mean you sell your champions last in the premium sale? I mean, it's really good conversation, and this is the whole goal. And you'll see on the agenda, we have a lot of different individuals talking from different parts of the state. And again, I know when we get to the end of tonight, Lexi's going to kind of tee up next the program there on Thursday evening, and all these will be recorded. So again, I want to clearly point out that if you don't get into one of the three breaks, so we have the 3 sessions and you'll join 2 of the breakouts, and Kelsey will talk a little bit more about that, but everything's recorded. Okay, past ones are recorded, so we'll provide that information. Again, as you have questions, we're gonna have plenty of time for discussion if people like me would stop talking, right? And and we'll keep things moving, but please ask questions, right? This is the whole reason we do this is to kind of help understand if somebody said something in any of these topic areas that triggers a thought. This is where we need you. So we're having people set up the conversation, but then we have lots of time for all of you to jump in and participate as well. So I'll close out by turning things back to Kelsey, and she'll kind of help set up the first part and maybe reiterate a couple of things I talked about on format. But again, really appreciate everybody joining. Please share this information with fellow folks in your county, other board members, volunteers that were not able to join either tonight or Thursday night. It doesn't do us any good if we have all this information and then others, people do have conflicts, obviously, but let's make sure we get it to them in your own county. So with that, I'll turn things back over to Kelsey. And once again, thanks for being part of tonight.
Sorry about that. We're going to get started here in just a minute. We will have an opening session both nights where everyone will attend the opening session. And then, as Joel mentioned earlier, we have 3 breakout sessions available. You will attend 2 of those. We will record all of the breakout sessions, so you will have the opportunity later on to view the session that you did not attend, or to go back and view one of the sessions that you did attend if you had extra questions or whatever that the case might be. We would encourage you throughout the night, if you do have questions, put them in the comments and ask those. When we are in our breakout sessions, after the presenters present, we'll give an opportunity for question and answer as well. And so lots of time to dialogue and communicate this evening. We want you to know that whether you are a Fair Board member, a volunteer, or an extension agent tonight, you are a valued piece of what puts together your local fair. We have 105 counties in Kansas, and we have more than 105 county fairs. So there are more than 105 ways to hold a county fair. No one way is right, but we can always learn from each other and grow and help to improve our local fairs, whether that be just a 4-H fair or however your fair might handle things. We are going to start this evening with a session about the roles at the county fair level. And I'm going to go over just a brief overview, and then I'll turn it over to our local speakers to share with you. So I want to be sure to share with you that there is policy and there are rules that go toward whose role is what as far as the county fair. And we want to make sure that everyone understands that your local county fair is a partnership between your county fair governing authority, whether that's the county fair board, or you may have some separate committees that do that, and your local extension unit. There's a simple way that we can put it, and if you include 4-H as a part of your fair, the simple part of that is that 4-H is the rules are handled by your local extension office. The logistics and things like that, the schedule, are typically handled by your fair board. Now, that is a very broad picture. We want to make sure that everybody understands the different pieces to that. I will share with you the governance for community partners is located in section 10 of Kansas 4-H policy. If you're curious about 4-H policy or extension law related to roles at county fairs and local shows, you can look on the Kansas 4-H website, and under resources, there's a link to Kansas 4-H policy. You're also always welcome to contact your local extension agent, and they'll direct you to the appropriate places as well. But the extension program is legally responsible for the quality and resource allocation for programs under their jurisdiction. And so the programs under their jurisdiction in this case would be your local 4-H program. Extension programs are encouraged to facilitate engagement and program delivery with community partners, but they're not required. And if they engage in program delivery with a community partner, setting up an agreement for how you will deliver the resource and make joint decisions around that program is essential for program success. And so an example of that would be having an MOU, or a memorandum of understanding, between your local fair policy authority and your local extension unit. If you don't have one of those in place, I would encourage you to get that started. That is just a way to help guide what everybody's going to do. And to be honest, we see a lot of transition in both fair boards and extension staff. And it's always a good idea to have something in writing on hand that says, this person is responsible for setting up the speakers in the show ring. This person is responsible for securing the judges. This is how the judges are paid. Those are just a few examples, but it's always good to have those things in writing. Some examples of our community partners with extension would be our private entities, our fair boards, and our fair boards are probably the most common local community partner that we have, and other community organizations. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jill Martinson. Jill is our 4-H, I'm about to butcher where you're from, Jill. Jill is our 4-H youth development agent in the Chisholm Trail District in Dickinson County. And I'm going to let her introduce her guest as well tonight. And with that, I will mute and let you take it away, Jill.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I did see in the chat that someone was asking, is there a sample MOU? And absolutely there is. And I'm sure that we're going to have resources that will get you to those. But yes, there is a sample MOU that can be used between fair boards and extension offices. So I would like to introduce, he doesn't usually go by Sheila's iPad, but Roger Hummel, who is our Central Kansas Free Fair board president, is also on the call this evening. And I knew he was participating, but I promised him that he didn't have to say anything unless he wanted to. So we'll see if we see Roger, if we hear from Roger. But I just wanted to share a few things as far as how fair works in the Chisholm Trail Extension District, especially in Dickinson County. We have a fairly normal division, hopefully the one that is recommended in the MOU, in that our fair board is responsible for the schedule. They make decisions concerning that. They also make decisions about locations, where things are at. And one thing that they do especially for us is taking care of our PA systems and making sure that those all are always set up in the arena where we need them to be. They also have responsibility for open class rules. However, extension does take responsibility at the fair and in planning for all of the competitive events that have to do with 4-H or open class, 4-H FFA or open class. So we take responsibility for those, and we don't take any responsibility for things like the carnival, the grandstand, the beer garden. Thankfully, I don't have to work at the beer garden after I finish a livestock show in the evening. So they take full responsibility for those activities of the fair while we take care of competitive events. We do make decisions related to 4-H rules and policies at the fair. We also take responsibility for the fair entry system. So all of our pre-entries and results, both 4-H and open class, are done by extension and primarily with volunteers. And then we also take responsibility for communicating with superintendents and making sure that they have what they need during the fair so that all of our events, shows, judging, everything can go as smoothly as possible. This is a lot of writing on a slide, but this is the process that we've developed. And it was something, I'm starting my 17th year in Dickinson County, which is now part of the Chisholm Trail Extension District. And so this is a process that began and that we've kind of perfected in order to hear voices about changes that are wanted or needed, as well as how we get those changes implemented. So the first thing that we do is all of our superintendents hopefully provide us some written feedback with suggestions of rule changes or anything that has to do with their department at the end of the fair. Our office then compiles all of that feedback from all of the superintendents and departments so that it's in one document, kind of bullet pointing, listing out everything that has been mentioned. We then have a joint meeting that's scheduled, and that is an agreed time between our extension board and our fair board. And the invite list for that includes fair board members, our extension executive board or our district board, our 4-H youth development program development committee members, all of our superintendents, as well as our extension agents. So it's a big group meeting. It's set up in a huge rectangle that takes up the entire room so that everyone can see each other. And we go through those proposed changes or those suggestions item by item in case there's feedback from any other department that would impact it. And so all of those are covered with some group discussion. We hope that this doesn't take more than about an hour and a half. That's the maximum amount of time that it usually takes. And then from that meeting, those proposed rule or location or schedule changes are then printed in the 4-H newsletter, and there is a window given for feedback. And then our 4-H program development committee considers those proposals as well as the feedback that was received in making recommendations. Those recommendations from the 4-H PDC are then published again for feedback. And then after that feedback is received, our extension executive board or our district board determines the final 4-H rule changes, both based on those PDC recommendations and the feedback that's been received. So that's the process that we go through to get something in, some things change, rules change, so that hopefully we have everyone on board and supporting any changes that we're making. There are changes that come with the state fair requirements. So if the state fair changes a rule that has to do with one of our static divisions, those are automatically done because those affect the work that the kids are taking on to the state fair. So those are made automatically. But if it's something that has to do with a local issue, then those are ones that go through this process. Also during this time, open class rules are also looked at and talked about because many of our superintendents are both 4-H and 4-H FFA and open class superintendents. But our board determines what time things happen, what the location is, and they're the final decision makers on any open class rule changes. Some of the things that this cooperation has helped us to accomplish: we have a lot of really dedicated volunteers. There are things that happen at our fair that get done, and I, in 17 years, cannot tell you exactly who does it, but it always gets done. We know that we miss someone when one of those things doesn't get done, and we have to pick up the pieces because we never knew who was taking care of it anyway, because we just had people that were so dedicated to that work. We have had really strong support for our livestock premium sale, and we have fair board members as well as community members who serve on that committee and give guidance, as well as 4-H superintendents especially. We have been able to utilize community funds, both grants and donations, to improve facilities. That includes replacing a lot of our small livestock facilities, as well as right now we're in the process of replacing our open beef barns with a new facility. And we've also been able to make connections through extension with other community partners to do a kitchen upgrade in our main building, which is Sturl Hall. We have year-round cooperation. So I do attend fair board meetings throughout the year. And so there's work that happens together throughout that entire time. And extension also has year-round access to the buildings and grounds for educational programming. And that's something that we very much appreciate. And we've also had, through this cooperation, really great fair board member support for our 4-H program, for our youth, and for our families. We hosted a large livestock beef show a couple weekends ago, and we had fair board members who came just to check and make sure that things were going well. And we absolutely appreciate that support. And that is my rundown of how we in general divide responsibilities for the Central Kansas Free Fair. And we are going to be celebrating our 100th anniversary this year, and with the theme of honor the past, celebrate the present, embrace the future. So that is a long thing that helps to describe what we're looking past, we're celebrating now, and we're looking towards the future with the Central Kansas Free Fair. So with that, I am open to answering any questions, and I can also pass it on.
I think Jill will wait on questions because our
Perfect.
next speaker is Todd Schmidt from Greeley County on the western side of the state. So you'll notice tonight as you meet our speakers and our presenters that we try to get agents and fair board members from across different parts of the state because we know that sometimes we do things very differently from one end to the other or from north to south. So with that, I'll let Todd share about the Greeley County Fair.
Thanks, Kelsey. Todd Schmidt from Greeley County. Greeley County has a population of about 1,200 people, so we're quite a bit different than Chisholm Trail District. Just a little bit of background. I'm in my 29th year here, and I've been a single agent most of those years. And we have a great fair. I mean, no more population we have great turnout. We have good cooperation amongst everybody, and it's just, you hear horror stories from other counties about things that happen and go on between, the fair board and extension board and this and that, and we just never seen that out here, and it's been great. We've got 7 members on our fair board. Most of them call it the fun board because they get to, put on the county fair, provide facilities, and do lots of fun things. That's kind of what their duties or responsibilities are: facilities, logistics, the finances, equipment, labor. And then they also put on the extracurricular type events at fair time as well. We do have a home-owned carnival, but we are fortunate to have a volunteer board that's underneath the fair board, and they handle every aspect of that, and we support them with whatever they need or whatever we can do, just as long as we don't have to be in charge of it. So that's our main goal there. But our fair boards are really good. In fact, most of our members, I mean, you're on till you want to get off, and most of them stay on 10 to 20 plus years. So they enjoy it. They do a good job. As far as the extension board, as far as their roles and responsibilities, I kind of look at it as their duties kind of end when the fair book goes to the printer. And, we ask them about 4-H policy and rule changes, and, they help guide us through that with input from the 4-H PDC. But a lot of that takes place, back in the fall prior to. And, we have discussions after fair with both the fair board and the extension board on, possible changes, and I always keep a note, actually in a judging card in my pocket during fair, and I take down notes and people that say, hey, how about we do this? And we can discuss them after the fair at the next couple of meetings. But as far as I'm concerned, extension council, they're in charge of the 4-H division of the county fair. But primarily, their duties and responsibilities end when the fair book goes to the printer. And as far as the actual week of fair, I kind of leave that up to the fair board and myself as the main representative for the extension and 4-H program. We do have a strong active FFA program as well. We've had half a dozen BOAG teachers throughout the years, and I tell you, the participation from them has varied from, one guy that was here for 25 years and, was here all week of fair and was my ring steward at every show. And then we've had BOAG teachers who I never saw all week. So, that kind of varies, but we treat FFA just like 4-H. They have to follow the same set of guidelines and regulations as far as livestock are concerned. As far as tagging, we do require YQCA on all livestock exhibitors. to participate in the county fair. We have a local, can't remember the name of it now. But similar to the state livestock declaration form that we make the kids sign and the parents sign. Just kind of reminds them of, what their responsibilities and duties are in terms of taking care of that livestock. And then that the fair board and myself, have every opportunity to come out and visit with them and answer any questions that they may have. So, so FFA and 4-H kind of go together. I don't know what else you want to know. Do we have a question here?
Yeah, Todd, in the chat, the question is, does your fair board own their own building as a separate entity, or do you hold it at a county-owned building?
Yeah, the Fair Association, Fair Board is just I don't know, a county entity or a county department. The actual buildings themselves are owned by the county. Fair Board's in charge of maintenance and taking care of them. Our office is actually on site on the fairgrounds. We do a little trading with the Fair Board in terms of we pay for internet and this and that, and the Fair Board provides us electricity and space. Like I said, we're a small county. I probably do more for the Fair Board than, most agents do. I basically run the meetings, provide the agenda. We have special events like ranch rodeos, barnyard Olympics, things like that. I kind of organize and manage those things for the Fair Board. They're great at coming and helping put them on and this and that. But most of our board members, wear lots of hats in a small community like this. So I feel like it's, part of my responsibility to chip in and help out if I can. But what else do you need to know, Kelsey?
That's all I've got right now. Do we have, if you've got questions, we'll take a few minutes to put them in the chat. If you think of questions later that you would like to ask any of our speakers, you are welcome to email those to me and I'll be sure to get them to our presenters afterward. Since I guess we'll give you all a few more minutes to maybe think of some questions, and I'll ask Lexi to direct us to our next steps as we go into our breakout room.
I did, Kelsey. I had one question sent direct, just asking when we start
Sure.
that rule change process for the fair. And that joint meeting
Absolutely.
is usually held in October. And so that's when that process starts. And hopefully we have those rule changes made by this time of year so that they've gone through that entire process.
And I might point out too, as far as rule changes go, because Jill did mention that any changes that are made to static exhibits, or non-live exhibits for the state fair, those are automatically made for their fair. Just to give you all a little clarification of how some of that process happens at the state level. The Kansas 4-H handles all of the changes in what's called Centennial Hall. We also handle if there were to be any changes with rabbits, the horse show or the dog show. But all of those livestock shows, any rule changes with those are handled by the Kansas State Fair Board. And so you probably, if you're on a fair board or if you're an extension agent, you've probably noticed there is a difference in when those changes are released. And I've had agents contact me wanting to know if they can get livestock changes any sooner. Unfortunately, we don't have that, and that goes through a bigger process than what we provide. And so we do realize that sometimes you get those changes a little too late for you to implement for your current year's fair. But just know that you can always watch and see how it goes. Sometimes a big change, it's better to watch and see how things go before you implement them anyway. And as far as those changes go, you don't necessarily have to make changes at your local level. As someone who worked in the local office with it just a couple years ago, I will tell you, we think as a state staff, it's really important to have your county fair rules for your static exhibits very closely mirror your state fair rules, so that you don't get an exhibit up to the state fair that got a purple at the local level, but then maybe gets a white at state fair, and then that young person doesn't have the opportunity to understand that. So that's maybe a little bit of background of how some changes are made, and specifically at the state level, why some of those changes come out differently. Casey mentioned in the comments asking, how should a 4-H agent bring up the idea of needing an MOU to the fair board? I hope one of your fair board members is on tonight, Casey, and understands that you need that. If not, I would recommend a conversation with your fair board president, and especially since you're a newer agent, Casey, and I know some agents may be on here that are more seasoned and don't have an MOU. I think that's just a conversation I think it starts with your fair board president about, let's have an MOU. Let's spell out who's doing what, and it just aligns everything and sets everything out, so everybody knows what everybody's doing. Todd, there's another question here for you too. How is your FFA involved and a source during your fair?
Well, the FFA involvement varies from year to year. I mean, they do a booth. Sometimes they'll do a banner, sometimes put a float to parade. And we usually have a couple of kids that show straight FFA in the livestock division. Other than that, we try to encourage them, to bring ag mechanics projects and this and that for exhibit. It just gets awful hard, being during the summertime for those kids to remember to do that. But it's a good opportunity for them. It's a way to showcase, what they're doing. We have a great booth department at our fair. We'll have 20, 25 booths at our fair, and it's just fantastic. And FFA, we include them in with our 3 4-H clubs, and they compete together as a group of 4. It works pretty good.
Great, thank you.
That's a really great
Right.
number of booths. I would say in Dickinson County, we do have 5 FFA chapters. And so for the county, I do provide information to all of the FFA chapters about livestock tagging. So that is handled through our 4-H program. So I make sure that the advisors have all the information that they need to have about that, as well as any deadlines or pre-entry deadlines. I try to share that information so that kids who are doing just FFA are aware, but we have a lot of kids who are doing both. So they might show FFA in one project and then have a 4-H project in another species. But we also have an ag mechanics division that is just FFA, and it's been a really good partnership.
Awesome, thank you.
I'll just chip in. Can I chip in here, Kelsey? I'll just say communication is key to everything, and you can't pound that in hard enough. Agents, if you can, put your newsletters, send them to the school FFA department, send them to your VOAG teacher's personal mailing address. Just keep those lines of communication open. That's very important.
I think that communication between Extension, the Fair Board, and your local FFA instructors helps to really build that relationship. And really that relationship is very important as we work together with those local community partners. Okay.
Yeah,
Any other questions?
I may say something about, and I think where it's important back to the MOU, or there is that formal paperwork, but even if it was uncomfortable to go that far, we got to recognize the turnover that happens both on boards and again locally. We understand everybody kind of has the gist of the fair, right? But it's really new for somebody coming in on the agent side that doesn't have that experience, especially if it's a smaller office in terms of personnel. Or probably as important as anybody is the office professionals that actually really help take care of a lot of things at the fair or leading up to the fair, and as those turn over. So we just have some continuity and just back to expectations, so no one gets caught. Because we've been on these for a long time, and it gets brought up, or I've seen in counties where I'm get asked to go judge, or different places, like somebody doesn't know what's going on. it was really no one's fault. It was just a lack of communication or lacks of execution of who's responsible for what, because somebody had always taken care of that. And so just making sure that communication piece is in place, and defined, because it helps the turnover that happens throughout, in change of roles throughout. So really something to think about if you don't have that. Or for some of our senior agents, if the horizon's coming up where you may be retiring, passing that knowledge on for the next group becomes really important, because they just get caught not knowing.
Yes, good point. All right. It looks like maybe that wraps up this portion. With that, I'm going to ask Lexi to give us instructions for breakout rooms. And Jill and Todd, thank you both very much for sharing your knowledge and your experience this evening.